Hey guys, it's Bree. I wanted to talk to you today about Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. It's a series of comics that follow Hawkeye from the Avengers. The first one is My Life as a Weapon, Little Hits, and then LA Woman. If you aren't very familiar with Hawkeye, he's the guy in the Avengers who shoots the arrows. There are actually two Hawkeyes. The first is the one in the Avengers that we see. His name is Clint Barton. And the second is actually from the Young Avengers, which is kind of like a Teen Titans-esque approach to the Avengers. And that Hawkeye is called Kate Bishop. So there are two Hawkeyes, and Fraction takes both of the Hawkeyes and kind of throws them into the same universe. The stories are part of the Marvel Now universe. Marvel Now was kind of Marvel's attempt to reboot and provide an easy entry point into the Marvel universe for people who perhaps don't have the same kind of extensive, Marvel universe knowledge that some of their staple consumers have. Fraction's Hawkeye is really interesting in that it features a really minimalistic type of artistry. Kind of looks like this. So it has a lot of very muted tones and similar color palettes throughout. There isn't a whole ton of detail to the story drawings, to the panels themselves. It's not like in something like Superman Red Sun where you're going to, where if you're not reading the headlines of the newspaper that's drawn in the corner of the panel on the street, you're going to miss something. It's very straightforward in that regard. So it's kind of an easy entry point to comics and graphic novels if you haven't started them before. I will say they do have a little bit of adult content. Hawkeye himself is kind of the average Joe of the Avengers. He's not like super, smart like Tony Stark is. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's a carny, like pretty average Joe. He's not, anything fancy. He's not like super rich or anything. The storyline that Fraction picks up is after Hawkeye's brother passes away and he inherits a bunch of money. And he's kind of on the outs with the Avengers. He's looking for something he's looking to wallow in self-pity in a lot of ways. The only other person who's really still talking to him is Kate Bishop, the other Hawkeye. And she keeps coming over and is like trying to keep him in touch with his sanity. The very first issue, we meet one of the reoccurring, I guess you could call it bad guys. It's essentially a mafia family, and they are in control of the building that Hawkeye lives in, and he gets into a big fight with them. And they keep coming up afterwards as these kind of ridiculous bad guys. You can't really take them seriously, but they keep beating Hawkeye up. Fraction's Hawkeye is known for being really funny, and it is. It's pretty quick-witted. There's a lot of banter back and forth between Kate and Clint that's very, very funny. And in that regards, I enjoy it. The story itself, I find to be very disjointed. Part of this is because the way that Marvel has chosen to put these together, it skips around in the first volume between Hawkeye's issue 1 to 5, and then it grabs a Young Avengers story in number 6. Even when you're getting those consecutive stories, though, it just doesn't feel very cohesive. There isn't a huge driving force. Yes, you have this kind of big mafia family that Clint Barton is going up against, but it doesn't really feel like there's a huge motivation in the plot. Part of this is because the whole first 12 issues, Barton is just sitting around being a whiny kind of brat. He's wallowing in self-pity. He's oh, I'm not good enough for the Avengers. No one likes me, yada, yada, yada. That wore really quick. And then it just kind of felt like when he wasn't doing that, there was no substantial story. The second one leaves off with Kate Bishop being screw it, I'm done. I'm gonna go and have a break, and when we come back, hopefully you'll be better. And so Volume 3 is actually just about Kate Bishop. It's all her own storylines. It grabs 14, 16, 18, and 20 of the single issue comics. The next volume that's going to be coming out in February will have 15, 17, 19, and 21, which are all Clint Barton stories. That way they're kind of isolated from one another. I think that's going to be a really good thing for the story. It's not going to bounce around as much. It's not going to be, I think, as disjointed. And hopefully they are going to start picking up with some of the plots that they've hinted at as being like the big plot. So I think that that division is going to really help in creating a more cohesive story and an easier to follow plot line. In the first 2 issues, or the first 2 volumes, it just doesn't feel very connected. It feels like there's no driving force and that there's like just not a lot to continue on for. I mean, it's funny, but that to me just isn't enough. I look for that storyline and I look for those character developments, and it's kind of disappointing because by the end of the first 2, you're 11 single issues in, and it's like, come on. Like, this is a lot of storytelling for something that's not terribly cohesive and that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And I haven't yet finished number 3, but I'm hoping that we're turning the corner on that one. I will update you guys on what I'm thinking about the storyline after volume 3. I'm just not sure at this point if number 3 is kind of a flop, if I'm going to continue on. It's funny, but that to me, like I said, it's just not enough. Anyways, if you've read them, let me know what you think. Let me know if you get that sense of like aimlessness in the story, or if you think I'm just totally off base. That's cool too. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.